becoming a delegate, what have you. But a lot of activists also like reaching out to coalition activity and advocacy. So please advertise those functions at events like conventions, party conventions, that kind of thing. That's a good way to get involved with the party by advertising, handing out flyers for OAI. So, I can answer questions about the campaign if you want. We do want to limit that on this kind of call. You can email me those questions later. Unless you have to answer those later in the call. So with that, Judge Gray, are you on the call?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what's going on with our lawsuit?
Well, by the first thing,
Judge, I'm sorry, for those of you who don't know who Judge Gray is, he was the VP of the Libertarian Party in 2012 under Gary Johnson, and he made his name years ago as one of the highest government officials as a California Superior Court judge to call for an end to marijuana prohibition. Is that right, Judge?
Actually, tomorrow is my 24th anniversary of holding a press conference as a sitting trial court judge saying our nation's drug policy is not working. So I've been doing this for quite a while. I'm of course not 24 years older than when I did this, but it's been quite an interesting road. Let me also say that I think this is the most exciting thing I've ever been involved with, other than maybe the birth and adoption of my children, to be involved in opening up the presidential debates to other voices other than the Republicans and Democrats. And I believe in this. I think I'm not a particularly wealthy person, but I've made the largest donation I've ever made in my life to our America Initiative to support this lawsuit. I think that it's the best investment I could have made in my country for the future of my children and grandchildren. So it just really is consoling to hear on the phone here that we have people from literally all over the country who believe in this, who believe actually in liberty. Liberty sounds kind of kooky to some people, but it's not. You go back to the founding fathers. I mean, they bled for it. They gave up their treasure, their security. It's really something that I think that more and more people are beginning to understand. I was just at the Libertarian Convention here in California last weekend, and gosh, the Students for Liberty were represented there. This is a thriving organization around the country that is starting to see and understand how important liberty is to us, to our country, to our future. And you folks are helping. And even if you're alone on occasion, I can tell you I've been involved with government one way or the other for a really long time. And if someone representing an organization comes and speaks to an elected official, you will get an audience. And even if it doesn't appear so at the time, they will remember and they will know that there are votes out there. You want to accent, because if I were to go to the Idaho legislature, it wouldn't make any impact at all because I can't vote for anybody in the Idaho legislature. But make sure that they know that you can vote for or against them, and you have other people that can also vote for or against them, and you will get their attention. You come back a second and a third time, and that simply will build. So thanks for what you're doing. To go directly with regard to the lawsuit, may I first say that we are hoping that this lawsuit is worked out of existence and is no longer necessary. You're probably aware that Governor Gary Johnson was actually held for the first time in a long time in a national poll. That was the Monmouth poll about a week ago, and he was put with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So whom would you propose, either Gary Johnson as a libertarian, Donald Trump, it's hard to say his name, but okay, as a Republican, or Hillary Clinton? It ain't always easy to say her name either. And he came out with 11%. And most people still don't know who he is, but there is that dissatisfaction. If we start polling, libertarians start polling at 15%, even by the definition and protocol published by the Commission on Presidential Debates, the libertarian candidate will be nominated or will be included in those debates. Of course, they can always try to change or finesse it. So we really do need that lawsuit to keep the heat on them. But it really is exciting, and it really is building, and we are a part of that. And thanks to all of you. Unfortunately, I haven't heard any women, Charlie, on this call. That's something that we really need to focus on more, and young people too, because we need to focus on that as well. Getting directly to the lawsuit, it was filed last October in Washington, D.C. It's in federal district court there. We have a female judge who isn't the most courageous in the world, but there is some reason to believe that she will stand up and do what she thinks is right, which is really all we need. We have received the expected motion to dismiss filed by the Commission on Presidential Debates. You're probably all aware of this, but more and more of the people should be aware as well. There are 6 commissioners on the Commission for Presidential Debates, 3 of whom are high-ranking Republicans and 3 of whom are high-ranking Democrats. We have all of the documents we need to show that this is literally a conspiracy to restrain trade. It is a conspiracy to have a bipartisan, not nonpartisan, not tripartisan, but bipartisan group for debates for the help of getting our Democrat and Republican message out there to the voters. And it involves huge amounts of money. And the more you get into it, the more you see how huge those amounts are. So we have alleged all of those things in our complaint. I had something to do with having this be an antitrust violation, which I think fits beautifully well on every issue, with one exception, and our Achilles heel on it is, does it actually affect commerce? And of course, that's why we show how much money is involved in this. Not only tens, hundreds of millions of dollars of free publicity, but the schools that promote, that host these debates end up making a lot of money. People donate money to the commission so that they can be the host. People donate advertising. There's lots and lots of money involved in this, and if we can just persuade the judge on that one, we will be in shape. But the commission has filed the motion to dismiss. We have now opposed it. We have filed our motion there, and it should be argued probably the end of this month. And now time is moving, and of course we all know that the game plan for the commission and the president and the Republicans and Democrats is to stall as much as possible. So we get through September and October, we still don't have a result of the lawsuit. So now it's moot as far as 2016 is concerned, so they can put it off for another day. And that will be their game plan. We are cracking the whip, and we're trying to get all of this done first. Candidly, we not only have to have a decision from the federal district court in Washington, but then whoever loses will inevitably appeal. We will if we lose, they will if they. So we'll also have to get a decision from the appellate court in D.C. So time is not a favor for us. It's not on our side, but we are pursuing it as best we can. So that is pretty much the gruel. We have a guy who is our attorney, named Fine, Bruce Fine, who was in the Reagan administration's Attorney General's office, and he is committed to this. He says that this is probably one of maybe 2 of the most important lawsuits he's ever. He's good. He's a constitutional scholar. He's dedicated. He's cut his rates. He is ideal for us, but we certainly need some support. It is expensive. We'll get into depositions. We'll get into all kinds of other expenses. We need support for our America initiative to support this lawsuit. And it will be that revolution that Thomas Jefferson talked about so long ago, saying, of course, as you folks know, every generation we need a bloody revolution to keep vested interest, to keep the scully from our government. How long has it been since we've had that revolution? I say, I dropped the word bloody because thankfully the founding fathers gave us the tools to have a revolution without the bloodshed. But we need to pursue that revolution in a peaceful fashion by opening up these debates, and you can be a part of it, and I thank you for it. So that pretty much concludes my report, but I'd be happy to hang around and answer any questions or discuss anything else if you feel that I can be of assistance.
Thank you, Judge, and I will open up to anyone with questions on any of the specific projects. We do have national projects as well, or petitions or coalition letters, and the lawsuits. social media marketing, or how you advertise OEI at events at LP. So questions on any topic, so anyone?
Charlie, this is Juanita, Virginia. I have a question for the judge. Judge Gray, is there a source for getting a copy of the response to the motions to dismiss? We've got a guy who does a lot of stuff up in New England, and he's asking if that document is considered public, and can we post it?
Good for you. It is public, and honestly, I don't know what the source is except for me, so I will give you my email address, and you or he or anyone else that wishes, send me an email, and I will take it personally to make sure that you get a copy of our response in opposition. My email address is Jim, as in James, Jim, Jim, P as in Papa, Gray, Gray, Jim P. Gray, at sbcglobal.net. SBC like Southern Bell Corporation. So Jim P. Gray, Gray, at sbcglobal.net. You send me an email, and I will make sure that you get a copy of this. By the way, also, just to parenthetically get in a plug, every week for the last 62 weeks, I've been sending out on Mondays something I call 2 Paragraphs for Liberty, and it talks about what big government, how it would approach an issue, and then how liberty would, and just obviously weighs it, guess which comes out better. But if any of you would like to be on my mailing list, the idea is not only to look at it, but to forward it to your social media friends so that we discuss the issue of liberty. I'd be happy to put you on the list as well. Same email address if you wish, Jim P. Gray at sbcglobal.net. That is my answer.
Thank you, Judge, and thanks for being on.
My pleasure.
Anyone else? Questions? Floor's open.
Yeah, Your Honor? Yeah, this
Yes,
guy
sir.
from Michigan here.
Yes,
Yeah, what I was going to ask was, as far as we were talking about the affecting of commerce, you did mention a lot of great things that are directly affected during an election. It also occurred to me that it's influencing commerce because of, and I don't know how one would work this in, not being a lawyer or anything like that, but the commerce is affected by the fact that these candidates and the parties that are represented by the Commission on Presidential Debates are, to sum it up, crony capitalism. They are involved in choosing winners and losers within the larger, business economy of the entire country. And that certainly affects commerce. And the president, who would be one of the 2 people picked there, would be the person who appoints the chairman of the Federal Reserve. That clearly affects commerce.
And the Secretary of Commerce. Scott, you're absolutely right, and our complaint lets that out rather fully. Honestly,
Okay.
as a judge, I didn't like people writing novels when they were writing complaints, but here we violated that rule because not only we want the judge to see these things as well as the defendants, but we want the public to see them as well. And what decision that we make more affects commerce than electing the President of the United States, who, as you say, would appoint people in the Fed, the Department of Commerce, talk to what issue should go to the Supreme Court. We feel that that's really apparent, and we hammer on that one. But you're right.
Okay, thank you.
Come on, ask me some hard questions. I'm sitting here. I don't want these softballs. Hit me.
I'm sorry, I don't have one right now. I'll pause for a minute and see if someone else gets coming out.
Judge Gray, Brian in Kentucky.
Hi, Judge. Jericho here on the East Coast. I have a question. So, how often do these Sherman Act is the Sherman Act a frequent victor at for these antitrust actions? I mean, I guess it's an old law, what, in the 1890s, it's a Gilded Age.
Yeah, the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act, which was later, are used with some frequency, and they've been used for lots of things. They have, to my knowledge, never been used in a political forum. We have a couple of good constitutional issues as well, but this is a new approach. As you can imagine, Ralph Nader has tried this before, and Perot and Buchanan, and they've made some really bad law for us, from constitutional issues, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. So we're kind of putting those on in parenthetical terms, but we're focusing on antitrust, and we're focusing on one constitutional issue, which I think is very solid. So yes, antitrust laws are used with some regularity in federal courts, but they've never been used before, to my knowledge, in this forum. That's why it's novel.
And I assume that this is actually not necessarily for the political aspect of it. It's for the commerce aspect of it because of the $12 billion at stake.
Hell yes.
Yeah, so
it's huge. The more you get into it, the more you're shocked at how much money is involved with the election for the president. We all know money is much too important in our elections, but as to the debates, it's unbelievably important as well. And this is what we're trying to convey to the court, as well as, of course, to the media.
Thanks, Judge.
Judge, this is Elizabeth Gettner. Hello. I'm wondering if you have reached out as OAI to the League of Women Voters on this issue and requested them to make a statement of some kind.
We have not, Elizabeth, we've not done that yet. We quote the League of Women Voters, which I'm sure you know, used to be involved in running the Commission on Presidential Debates. And when they were forced out by the Democrats and Republicans, left with, as we quote them, the public statement, "We will not be a part of the hoodwinking of America," which for the League of Women Voters, that's nuclear bomb stuff. And so we quote that. We have not yet reached out to them, and I think probably it's time, Charlie, that we do that. And if you want me to help do that, I think that would be a natural thing to do. We thought about having them be parties to the lawsuit, but declined to do that at the moment. You're aware, though, that the Green Party is also a party to the lawsuit, as well as Jill Stein, who was the 2012 presidential candidate, as well as their vice president. Governor Johnson is, so am I, in the Libertarian Party. But I think that's a good comment. I think we should, at this point, do exactly that.
Okay, if you need help doing that, I'll send you an email in a minute. But
thank you. Please do, because we do need help, and all suggestions are appreciated. I hope you wrote down my email address.
I did.
jimpgray@sbcglobal.net. Terrific. I'll look forward to it.
Okay.
I got one of those hard questions now.
So I have a silly question. This is Jeff from New Jersey. I've been confronted with a lot of people talking about where we should establish our national defenses, and things like who should control our Navy and things like that. And then Austin Peterson says that, we should privatize the entire thing. How do you stand with privatizing a Navy and things along those lines?
I have not heard Austin say that. I am not in favor of privatizing the Navy. I mean, we now have we don't have the draft, which I think is great, and we're paying them better, which I also think is great. So the free market kind of reigns there. But no, I am not in any way interested in privatizing our military or having it be out from under public control. The answer is no.
Judge Gray?
Okay.
Sorry to equivocate on that one so much, but that's my answer.
Judge Gray. This is Burley Kane in New Mexico. Do you expect that the lawsuit will go to the Supreme Court level?
I think the odds are strong. I think probably the Supreme Court would duck it, to be honest with you. And I hope so, because we're hurting for time. And we're going to have to get expedited process through the trial court, the district court, as well as the Court of Appeal, the circuit. But it's certainly a major constitutional issue. My opinion is that they'd probably duck it and just enforce whatever the various DC Court of Appeal would do. But I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had kind of a challenge question, and it's because other people have brought this up to me. A lot of people in the liberty movement, going back to objectivists, actually have a problem with antitrust law. And I've had a lot of people not necessarily coming from that direction, simply saying, well, the Commission on Presidential Debates is a private entity. They should be free to do whatever they want. It's their free expression if they want to be biased toward two candidates. And so I guess I'm kind of now playing devil's advocate here and interested in your defense of that. And also whether or not you're concerned that maybe precedent set here that's favorable to open debates might end up in the future having any possible bad precedents that would affect the ability of other private political organizations to function without some kind of equality requirements from the federal government.
Those are really valid and important questions. If you or I were to give a dinner party or to give a debate and say, you know, I'm going to invite members of your club to come over and Charlie's club to come over, but I'm not going to invite Scott's club to come over, we all believe and understand that that's our right. That's clearly, we can invite whomever we wish to come to our private debate. But the problem is that we have huge amounts of government money sponsoring this. We have huge amounts of public airwaves, in effect, making these choices that involve huge amounts of money. So it is an antitrust violation to exclude from that commerce other competitors. And that's the difference. This is not a private party. This is not a private dinner party. This is not a private debate. It involves huge amounts of public as well as private money, and that's the distinction. And I'm very comfortable with it.
Could you give an example of the public money, just so I have something to pass along to people that say these things?
Certainly, there are advertisers that are sponsoring. Now let's hear a word from our sponsor in the debates themselves. There are people that are donating large amounts of money to have the debates at their facility, various universities, places like that. You have huge amounts of money that the federal government actually donates to the debate commission itself for these debates to take place. It just goes on and on. I will get you a copy of our complaint. We mention quite a bit of that in there.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know the federal
global.net. They do.
Okay.
They do. Are you aware that the federal government even pays money to the Democrats and Republicans to have their own conventions? Libertarians would have a cow if they were to offer that, but that's public tax money that goes to pay for their conventions, for heaven's sake. It's out of control, and it's time for us to change it.
Hear, hear.
At least I converted one person.
Hear, hear.
Judge Gray, do you expect that in the event that the lawsuit is held in our favor and we proceed forward to the debate, what other mechanisms would the two establishment party leadership mechanisms use to try and control the situation?
I'm sorry, I do not understand the question.
Sorry, yeah, that was a little bit juggled. In the event that we are allowed into the debates and the traction takes hold and people get the message and it resonates, what other ways do you know of, if there are, that Republicans and Democrat leadership and party structure can interject and or prevent progress in the libertarian movement?
Well, the direct answer, of course, is they'll do whatever they can do. The social media is a revolution that we are seeing. We first saw actually Barack Obama. He didn't do it himself, but it cost lots of money. But he's got into the social media, and now the government of mainland China is having all kinds of cardio problems because they cannot control the media. And I think it's the same with the Republicans and Democrats. They can try, but the young people are using social media, even old timers like me, are using social media. My wife doesn't really read the newspaper anymore. She gets it off her cell phone and her computer. So I don't think the Republicans and Democrats are going to be able to control the media and the message nearly like they have before. It will be important. It'll be critically important to have the representative from the Libertarian Party be in the debates. Will people watch it that much? Yes, decreasingly, but it gives legitimacy to us. The media, the social media, everybody, if with a Libertarian presidential candidate and vice presidential, by the way, are in the debates, it will give legitimacy and it will be an absolute categoric game changer. Because if you're seen as viable, then all kinds of good things can happen. And that 11% in the Monmouth poll will go up to 25 or 30 in a blink of an eye. And the Republicans and Democrats will not be able, in my opinion, to control that. Hooray for that. With that calmed the crowd.
It's a mind-boggling thought, Judge Gray.
It's exciting. It's the most exciting thing I've ever been involved with, except the birth of my children. The possibilities of this are absolutely historic, and I'm proud to have a small part of it.
Indeed. Thank you for doing what you do, Judge Gray. It's a great thing.
Proud of it.
This is Lily. Can I ask a question?
You're up, Lenny.
No, it's Lily Tom Williams.
Liddy, sorry.
Hi, Judge Gray. Good to see you in Los Angeles. My question to you is that, some presidential candidates drop out of Republican race. It looked like they approached our national LNC chair, and they might be coming to national convention. What do you take on their last minute switching to Libertarian Party for possible running?
You know something, I am a libertarian, and I think competition is great. Whether, I can't even say his name again, but if Donald Trump were to decide to come to the Libertarian Convention, we'd probably let him buy a booth. Whether we'd give him the time of day would be an interesting question with all of his money. But libertarians, I think, are pretty jealous of people just calling themselves libertarians and then using our ballot access. But let them try. I think it'd be wonderful. It would get the word out, and we'll see how libertarian people can be. So I would welcome the competition. Honestly, I'm not particularly afraid of it either.
Okay, good. So you're not really worried about they might hijack our national convention with their own delegates? No, I don't. Well, you know, we're strange in that if you become a delegate, you could, it's in Orlando, so I expect that more Floridians than normal would be at the convention. So, things could happen. I think we have to be careful. I'm going to be a delegate. My wife is too, and I want people to take it seriously. And I guess if I had $1 billion or something to bring people in from Ohio and Nebraska and everything to be delegates for me, they could hijack it, I suppose. But I like competition, and I would not be at all afraid of that, because I think libertarians will rally. But like our state conventions, though, that we normally have some kind of control in our bylaws, you will say that you have to be registered libertarian for how many days before you can even run as our candidate. I mean, sure. Don't you think that we should have something like in the national bylaw to limit this kind of potential risk to our party? You got me with my cue cards down. I haven't looked closely enough at the bylaws to know what our various requirements are. I think there are some, but I honestly don't know what they are. I don't think that you can all of a sudden say I'm a libertarian and show up at the convention. I think you will have had to have been a registered libertarian for a certain amount of time. But I'm not going to say further than that, because I'm not sure what the requirements are. I believe.
May I answer?
However, please help me out here.
Yeah, my understanding, and this is a former state chair myself from Michigan, Scott Bowman, that the national party will only see. It's up to the state parties. Once the state parties have been credentialed, and most of them, it's pretty solid. I mean, there's been disputes, but most of the states that have libertarian parties, it's pretty clear which organization is the real libertarian party. Once they're credentialed, the chairs of those parties will be the ones who decide who get to be and not be state delegates. And in fact, the deadline already passed for the chairs of the party to submit their initial list of delegates. Now, alternates and delegates can still be added on up to and during the convention, but it's still up to the state chairs, and they already got a starting list of delegates.
Thank you, Scott. I understand at the state level, because I was the former state chair for Colorado. I'm running for U.S. Senate now, and I'm a state director for American Initiative. But my question is really about the presidential candidates who want to run on libertarian and tickets. And there should be some kind of vetting process for all our presidential candidates. This time we have like a 12 or 11 right now or something like that. It's like it seems like pretty much anybody wants to run for president on our libertarian